Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Astrology Hub Podcast. This is a special edition episode of our flagship show dedicated to sharing the multitude of astrological perspectives and approaches. On this show, we feature up and coming astrologers as well as living legends in the field and connect you with experts and thought leaders in fields related to astrology, demonstrating how astrology can support you in so many areas of your life. My name's Amanda Walsh. I'm the founder of Astrology Hub and the host of this show. Today, I am so excited. We've been talking about doing this for months, and now it's finally here. It feels like a very big moment for us as a company, and I'm going to tell you why. We're going to get a little quote unquote out of the box, or rather, we're actually going to take a deep dive with you into an exploration of the element of water. This is also a show lovingly dedicated to the planet that we don't talk about as much in astrology. And I know for many of you, it's your favorite planet, and that's the planet Earth. We often equate our study of the cosmic rhythms with the study of the tides. So much of the way that we think about astrology and talk about astrology is related to water. And water in astrology, as many of you know, is associated with our emotions, our feelings, our sensitivity, the deep and sometimes hidden parts of ourselves. So many of you probably know that also that water on this planet is in crisis. And this affects, well, everything. And today we're talking about physical water, but I'd also love to invite you to consider how this could be impacting the correlating water element as it shows up for you personally. So your feelings, emotions, sensitivity, your ability to express this healthfully, because as we know, as above, so below, as within, so without. So just keep that in mind as we have this conversation here today. I have two very, very special guests with me here today who have dedicated their lives to studying the impact and importance of water for our bodies and for the planet. And they're going to share today some very mind-blowing things. This is also a very momentous occasion for Astrology Hub and for you as a member of our community, because this is the first time in Astrology Hub history that we are welcoming a sponsor/partner for our podcast. Because here's the thing, we've been approached by potential sponsors and advertisers for years now, and it has never felt right to say yes until right now. Kenny Liu is the CEO from Spring Aqua, and he's one of our guests here today. Not only does he offer a product that I can put my personal and heartfelt stamp upon, more on this later, but also this product helped us all align more with nature, which is what we're doing here in our study of astrology. And his product is good for you and good for our planet. And he's a great person with a beautiful, beautiful heart. Kenny's father is also a well-known astrologer in China, and he uses astrology in his own life as a business owner, father, and husband, and just in navigating decisions in general. So I love Kenny. I'm thrilled that he's here with us today. And I'm thrilled that his company, Spring Aqua, is now a sponsor of the Astrology Hub podcast. And Kenny's joined by anthropologist and author Gina Bria. Gina is the founder of the Hydration Foundation, which has been featured in Oprah Magazine, New York Times, Epoch Times, Goop, and many others. They provide the best and latest ways to hydrate people, plants, animal, and soil, bringing you better hydration through extraordinary information, lovingly produced for free with access to all. So Kenny and Gina are going to help us go on a deep sea dive into the realm of water. Welcome you two to the show. I am so happy you're here. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, we're going to have a great conversation. I already know it.
Thank you very much.
You can feel it brewing like a wave,
I feel
right?
it brewing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So Gina, I'd love to start with you because I know you started getting into this arena of water and recognizing the importance of it in your experience with working with desert dwellers, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So can you tell us a little
that.
about your journey and what you've learned along the way?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I'm an anthropologist. I spent the first 25 years of my work and research around what is ritual how we use ritual, how we connect to symbols of the planets and earth and ritual elements to shape our new places to offer our identity, to keep growing, That's what ritual's really for. And in this process, I ended up looking at water quite a bit and started looking at how important water was as a ritual element, how it was used in rituals around the world, and then specifically how people were hydrating themselves. And I asked a very simple question, which was where is the toughest place to hydrate and how do they do it? And of course, that led me to desert communities. And my strategy for approaching the question was not just going to one group, but actually looking at how different groups around the world in every desert region approached getting enough water to be well, to be healthy. So I looked at each global region of deserts, and I had to do a lot of digging, Amanda, to get to anything, because what I was really looking for was pre-industrial approaches to hydration. And that led me to a lot of old, like falling apart ethnographic journals, the kind that where you open it up and the pages fall apart right in front of you. And it was sort of a bit like, I don't know, some kind of amazing adventure that you see on a movie. But what I found really stunned me, and this is what I'm excited to share, and that is that desert people and different regions using different approaches, different botanies, yet they were all using plants to store and gain hydration. And I just thought this was the biggest news I'd ever heard. I couldn't believe that there wasn't like shouting from the rooftops that we can hydrate better with a high plant diet, because these plants, especially desert plants. So if you think of something like aloe or cactus or tubers that are under the ground that can be dug up, or these root systems, these desert regions had already figured out, the plants had figured out how to store water. And this is the kind of water that has matching up with current science, where the scientists in their labs are also noticing that there's a more concentrated form of water. It's sort of this gel-like water that actually hydrates us more profoundly with less liquid. And I felt this was extremely important. So I literally founded the Hydration Foundation to share this information. We're going to talk more about that state of water and the science behind it. But I also organized a series of TED events to have TED Talks done. And this has sort of fallen into the common culture now under the name of structured water. And that just means that water in a state that's a bit more concentrated, maybe just 10% more than liquid. It's still in a liquidy state, but just slightly more silky. And that led me to Kenny and Kenny's company that makes a product that helps water restructure from the same kinds of water that plants would carry in a very broken world that we live in with the way we treat water. So that's how Kenny and I ended up together. And my job at the Hydration Foundation is to find as many forms of good water and promote that for people as I possibly can.
Gina, why do you feel it's so important?
Yeah, great. It's because, take a breath, Amanda, but by molecular count, so if you count up all the molecules in our body, 99% of them are water. So we are far, far, far more made of water than we realize, because we were looking for it in the same way I was out in those deserts looking for liquid. And it turned out water is really in all sorts of gel forms. And we are as much water as a jellyfish. We just never put it together. It's amazing how much water we are. And then, of course, being a water being made of water on a water planet, now we have to start thinking about ourselves differently as fluid beings. And then the inflow and outflow of water in our systems just like the gills of a fish or any other kind of creature, we now have to start thinking about what the role of hydration is in our complete being, not only our tissue being as jellyfish, but our consciousness being as water is a conductor of thought, emotion, information, from cell signaling all the way to signaling between people, all the way to signaling and relating to the electromagnetic forces of the planets as a whole. I mean, this conversation is huge. And I'm so excited that you opened the door for us to have it.
Thank you. It's so great to have you. And that's fascinating. I have, of course, 100 more questions behind that one, but let's go over to Kenny.
Yeah.
Kenny, thank you for bringing us all together. And thank you for your support of Astrology Hub and of this show and of this podcast. It's so exciting to have you here. And I know that astrology has been a part of your path. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And then also how you were led to this work that you're doing here with water as well.
When my dad retired, I think it was in the early 2000s, the first thing he wanted to do was, one of his passions is growing up, because in Taiwan's where we're from, he was exposed to all the different astrologies and all the different healings. And so growing up, he's always been thinking about, I've got to learn this. I've got to learn this to help the world. I've got to learn this to help my family. So when he finally retired, he went on a journey to look for the right, correct teachers, right? But there's a lot of teachers. He didn't know where to start. So I remember him just going to China, coming back home and trying to find the correct lineage. This one's from this clan, this one's from this tribe, and just kind of figure out exactly where it came down. And I remember he was hopping on all different classes, but he finally found one teacher that was from the original, he said, and he kind of dove deep into that and started learning. I think it was maybe 2003 to 2005, started learning it, maybe even before that. And he just felt this massively deep passion that he was just literally studying every day studying and going to classes and meeting people and just having fun with this. But the passion was real. So that really rubbed on me and my brother, because we were both pretty conservative Christians at that time. We were like, well, what's this thing where we can now see the future or look at the stars? And, we weren't very, no comprehending, right? We're like, what's happening? But it's my dad, so I love him anyways, right? We have to love him anyways. So that's the thing you need to do. So if you don't know what it is, you have to love him and learn. That's how I thought about it. And when I began learning, then I realized, wow, there's quite a bit of information that I didn't know of. And so over the years, he just got better and better. And he took, I think it was 7 or 8 years of classes. I mean, literally every day. And then he started taking classes with different teachers and finding the faults of different ones, and then connecting the dots. This one knows this one doesn't know that. So he's able to connect the dots, and start taking classes with I think it's the U.S. astrology. It's a little bit different with the Western and the Eastern. Started mixing, matching, so you can find where the holes are and put them in. So he got all the pieces, and he started talking to a lot of different people. And now he's collecting people's times, and he's looking at his, and he's getting tons of experience. And he just got a little bit famous, a little bit just through his network of people. People started calling him, and he started helping everyone out. And I think it was around 2013, 2014, one of his good friends, and she's also kind of spiritual, but she's an astrologist too. She said, she was looking at my chart and said, hey, this is about the time when things are going to begin to move, change, and people from the spiritual world and also the water world, that's all going to start coming to my life. I had no idea what that meant.
So in astrology, let me just make sure I understand. You said you had an astrology reading with someone who was a friend of your dad, who said
Correct.
The spiritual world and the water world are going to start coming together for you in your life.
It was around 2013.
Yeah.
Towards the end of 2000. I didn't really know, because at that time I was an entrepreneur, traveling, doing business. You know how it is when you get so busy. I was just hanging out with him at dinner one time, and this lady just kind of said that. So it's always been in the back of my head, And another happened when I was a kid in Taiwan. When you grew up as a kid, my dad went to like a spiritual leader and astrologist to figure out what Chinese name I should have. It's very kind of a common thing in Asia. And so they named my name Heavenly Waters. The day I was born.
Yeah. Wait. Your name is Heavenly Waters?
Heavenly Waters is my Chinese name. Yeah, translated to English. And it doesn't sound feminine in Asian, but it's, just say, but it's what it means. It's funny. So ever since I was born, I've had that name, and my dad picked the name too. He had like 3 or 4 options, and that was one he was picking. And then now I meet the Hydration Foundation. I meet you guys. It's like it's weird, 30 plus years, 40 years later, this is all coming together, you
Wow.
know. But that all happened in 2013 when I realized that something's gonna happen, but I didn't really know until it started to actually happen. And then I needed help. Then I started talking to my dad. Okay, this is happening. Well, what's going on here? And then I started asking him all sorts of things. And then that relationship just completely gelled, right?
Hmm.
There was a lot of doubt. And then he was showing me the path, and then it just gelled. And my brother got involved. He began to gel a little bit. So it's just that's just, we get revealed the truth sometimes. And I tell my friends, I can't deny the truth. It is what it is. You either love it or hate it. So love it, right? Yeah, and so that was my attitude the whole time. It's just to love mom and dad and love the people, and then just keep moving forward. Yeah.
Well, I love that astrology actually brought you together in the end, because sometimes it does the opposite for families and it doesn't always necessarily come back together. So that's really nice to hear. So Kenny, you were in the corporate world, you started to get these signs and people were telling you things about something about spirituality and water, and then you realize your name is Heavenly Waters, which is amazing. And then you start to pursue this path of going down, creating some sort of solution for our water challenge on the planet, right? So tell us a little bit about that.
So in 2014, I was invited to a translating meeting to a random person I did not know. This is just to some friends. And so I was actually going over to translate for another company who wanted to do business in China with supplements, food, not even related to water. But you know how it is when you meet friends and build relationships, things evolve. So at the meeting, I met a gentleman called Mr. Shao. He's pretty well known in Asia and have very prominent history. And we met 7 days at a 5-star hotel. I did all the translating, build the relationships. And then after that, he said to me, "You're that little kid that I really want to talk to." And so, could you come back to Taiwan in 2 weeks and then come over to my house and let's sit down. Let's map the future out together. And I said to my wife, that's probably my first business mentor, the real one, I should say. Maybe it's time for me to grow up someday. So I went home and I said to my wife, I gotta go again. At that time my daughter was 2 years old. She goes, "Are you crazy?" "No, I gotta go. This is important." So I went back and he took me to a McDonald's. And we sat in the McDonald's. He goes, "This is the American dream, right?" I'm like, so that was really funny, their perspective, but it was fun, right? And then I found out he's a guy who developed the EKG, the ultrasound, developed the Rubik's cube, had a lot of technologies over his career that he's manufactured and developed. And I go, wow, this is a true blessing to be together. And then I met his wife, and his wife is a very famous spiritual leader. I had no idea, and she kept looking at me saying, and this is make a little woo, but this is what happened. She said to me that I've seen your soul spirit in my temple when I was 12, and I showed up. So this is a very interesting kind of bring things together. But I was kind of prepared for it because my dad did say a few of these things are going to start coming together. So I wasn't like in shock. I just there to accept and love, right? And that started the journey of the water because we talked about clean air, clean water, renewable energy. We talked about many different types of technologies to help the planet. And that was Mr. Shao's heart. He says he's done enough, but he wanted to help the people and he wanted to help the planet and do something significant. And he's in his mid 60s right now. And so that's how we begin the process. And then it was all about my dad has some connections with a gentleman, Professor Henry. He had a prototype of the water machine. He connected with me. I said to him, "Look, we need to get Mr. Shao involved because he's the guy who can engineer the proper science." So that was the whole story, how everything came together, all through relationships. And then, and so the technology was really simple. It was a group of scientists that, studied the different springs around the world. And you have the Lord Springs in France, which we all know of, and you have the different springs in Germany, in Japan. And when they looked at the different rock layers and the water composition, and then look at what's in the water and how it's all formed through the geology, what we were able to do is kind of research, understand, and I would say we kind of mimic that ecosystem, right? So many of our customers have now called our little device that we made, a little box, an ecosystem in a box. So we brought nature to your home under your sink. And that's the visual that we tell everybody. I guess that's why we're doing this. We have Mother Nature in your house. And then when I met Gina, was a little bit later, I think it was last year, then I realized, oh my gosh, we're actually doing the right things on track. And she came and validated everything for us. So that I think through doing things with honesty, help with
Mhm.
my dad and his connections. And we've been able to stay at pretty much a guided company over year, right? Using my dad's help and his friends, and we continue to move forward.
Mm. And Kenny, you've told me about how you continue to use astrologers and I know you have some other spiritual teachers that they're like your advisory team. Like when you make decisions
That's
about
right.
the business and timing of things, you consult with your team. So can you
Absolutely.
tell us about the kinds of things they help you with?
Well, a lot of it's timing of when to launch certain projects, when to do things, who we can collaborate with, just because you I didn't know those people existed in the past. So when from I don't know the year 2000 to maybe 2010, I'm on my own, just going at business and work. But when I realized that J.P. Morgan, didn't you say that quote that they went to court a long time ago, and the lady goes, an astrologist testified. Well, he testified for the astrologist that I used them for consulting. Remember?
Oh yeah, he says anybody can be a millionaire, but it takes an astrologer to become a billionaire, is what JP Morgan said in that trial in New
Right.
York
And
City.
and
Yep.
so, and so I couldn't deny that there's so many truths and so many people helping me out with love. By the way, it's always love that I started to figure out. Wait a second, this really helps me accelerate the process, do things right, but also do it out of not fear, but out of love to help people. Right. And that was very important for our team because water is such a broad, it's so big, so big, so broad. There's the earth, there's the humans, the planet, there's so much stuff going on. And sometimes it's just too much to do. So what do we do? Little bit steps at a time. How do we put the pieces of the puzzle together? So
Yeah.
I've learned quickly through my godfather, you have to build everything in phases and do education in that process to get as much help as you can. So our company is kind of operates in that way. We all work together, but we do little pieces at a time, and we make sure that we check with the astrologers, we check with everybody to make sure that our intuition, the heart, and the purpose is all correct. Because if that is correct, and everything else that follows is just a very, very beautiful byproduct.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for your introductions, both of you. Let's go back to Gina. Let's talk a little bit more about the water. What do you see as the biggest challenges that people have with incorporating the right amount, the right
Mhm.
kind, all that with water right now? And
Yeah.
what are the effects of that?
I think the best place to start the conversation, Amanda, is to recognize, though it was well intentioned, we treat water with water treatment facilities. We pipe water through pipes. And what that does is it disorganizes the molecules. And we didn't know that was happening because we were just looking at the cleanliness of water and the convenient delivery of water. And those were all very good things. But in the meantime, it took us a while to realize that we were making water less and less effective at what it does by, and I think your audience would really understand this, when you don't have coherent orbiting of even molecules, you have disorganization, and literally the water is not able to do the work that it is by nature intended to do. So we have to start the conversation with the fact that we've broken water. It's a mess. It's full of, and we know it's full of chemicals, it's contaminated. So, and we don't quite know what to do about that problem. So thankfully, as an anthropologist, I was able to identify some very simple traditional methods or indigenous methods or ways in which water has been treated with reverence and with an understanding of different kinds of water. Now we're back to the science conversation about different kinds of water, different phases of water. And for example, plants they so easily fix water when they release the photosynthesis and the photons pick up the minerals from the soils and their roots. And in that combination, they then help reorganize the molecules. We can do that with something like a glass of water, where we can simply put in a pinch of salt in our water. So that salt then has a conversation with the water, and the molecules are able to then organize themselves around those minerals and become more coherent. And that means that it's better to able to hydrate you with less drinking, because it goes into the cells more easily, either through the chemical process or through the electromagnetic process. So these things are both happening at the same time. It isn't one or other. It's multiple ways to get at recovering water. And I think, Amanda, with your audience, I think they would get that we arrive on the planet at a certain time for certain reasons. And I think we have been called to be the recovery generation for water. This is our work here. We need to recover our planet. We need to recover our water, recover our soils, recover our sense of wholeness and identity. And that together is our work now. And it's not up to us to whine about why they broke water and now we've got to fix it. It's like, no, you don't get to complain about that. You get to do it with joy, because this is why you were selected by all that is holy to be now here and to help water. So with Kenny's company, here he is doing a very natural technique that mimics indigenous traditions and ecological traditions, using minerals to recover water. And there's going to be many different kinds of solutions, whether you just put salt in your water or you use innovative water treatment techniques, devices, whether it's something as simple as getting out into the sunlight so that the sun can do the same thing to the water inside of you that it does in plants, or whether you ground yourself when you walk on the earth and pull up those electrical charges. All of these things have to do with how much a water being we are and how to recover the water within us.
You know what's so interesting, Gina? So I'll tell a little story about my experience with this water here. So my boyfriend was investigating options for water, and for my astrology lovers, he has his sun in Taurus, his rising Taurus, and Mars in Taurus. And so it needs to be quality, it needs to be solid, it needs to be real, it needs to work, it needs to be dependable, all those Taurian things. And he's very picky about which thing he's going to go with. So for the first 3 years of knowing him he's looking for the right water filtration system for us. And before we have it, he's literally getting water from this company downtown. It's purified water, but it's clean, right? Yeah. It's not alive.
Right.
He would bring it up to his home, charge it with pulsed electromagnetic frequency and red and purple lasers. I mean, literally, it just to make the water come back to life, right?
Yes.
And then we would drink that. It was so much work. Finally, he gets this he meets Kenny, he gets this filtration system from Kenny. And I didn't get one at first. I would drive across town 20 minutes with my blue water bottle just to fill up the water from him, because after I started drinking it, I know my body no longer wanted to drink anything else. It was like, I don't want anything else. I just want to drink that. And I would even find myself dehydrating myself because I didn't want to drink any other water. It made such a big difference. And there was this one day, because you're talking about the coherence of the molecules orbiting. There was this one day where I poured the water. Finally, I got my own system. Okay. So this is after I got my own system. And my system's by the window in the kitchen, and the sunlight was filtering through. And I held my glass of water up to the sun, and it looked like the universe orbiting around in my glass. I mean, talk about sounding woo-woo, Kenny, but I am sitting here tripping out because I'm like, I am literally drinking the universe. But the water molecules were dancing, they were alive, there was movement. And with the sun shining through, it looked like stars and planets orbiting around. So when you're talking about this, it's interesting how in our effort to purify and clean and make things more efficient, we killed it. We took away the life. And I think that's really interesting to think about, in general, and how the system itself, the water itself, is already intelligent. And then we interfere so much, and we try to make it what we want it. And in so doing, it hurts us, it hurts the planet, it hurts everything. So I love what you're talking about with coherence, because I think that is such an interesting conversation in astrology, where the more pure of a temple we have, our body temple, the more we can communicate with the actual intelligence of the universe, the more we can get those direct downloads from, from the universe itself. And I think that our water, like you're saying, 99% of our body's water. Wow. That's something really to pay attention to. So Kenny, I saw you unmute yourself. I think you have something that you wanted to add there.
No, I wanted to add, when we started the project, it was so important. Like you said, the filter kills everything. And, I remember back where our team was having a meeting and we're talking about, we got to make sure this is natural. This is like the ecosystem. The rock layers are in there. We can't use any electricity. We were very cautious on making sure that this was alive. This had to be alive when it's all said and done. And so I remember my godfather using my godmother, intuitive, to help us too, to guide us too. So we sought help from everywhere to get this ecosystem right. It wasn't just overnight. It was over a period of, even when we started the company in America, we had to evolve it, right? By the time we got to you guys, I knew Gary, correct? I realized, man, Gary is a researcher for sure. And he is all about the truth. So I better have everything correct when I show up.
Yes.
So when it finally came to Hawaii, and then I realized I felt very comfortable. I said, look, Gary, this is going to be great. I already know there's no problems. But he didn't know that was probably our 75th time of tweaking to where it is now. It is what it is. And so that's been a pretty interesting and a wonderful journey. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So can we speak a little bit more about coherence and what happens when our water is coherent versus when it's not coherent in our bodies?
I'd love to. I think it will help if I set the question, what is water? So water is material, obviously. It's, got a material, it has a physical presence. We can see it, taste it, touch it. It's a material, but it's also it's an energy. It's a fuel. So not only is our body made of the material of water, but it also is fueled by water, as is all other living things. So two really important facts to know. The material reality is we're far more water than we know. And secondly, the whole system's run on water, made of water, run on water. Wow, that's really okay. New setting to think about. That means I'm a liquid fluid being, and there's got to be a flow in and out of water for me to function well. But the next bit is that water is also information. And this is the new and exciting research in water science that's knocking everyone over. So water isn't only the energy that runs all living systems that are made of water, it's also the information, the passage of information back and forth between all other forms of life, including our own intercellular communication, and then how we are coherent with other beings and situations. All of that is very much aligned to what Kenny was saying about intuition. So water is the material that fine-tunes our capacity to receive and broadcast coherent information.
Wow.
It isn't just hydration. We
Right.
think get wet, that's it. It has a foundational need to be wet, but for the reason of conducting information back and forth between living cells and living people, and the essence of receiving all of life.
So Gina, is it the water or is it the light in the water?
Well, they work together. So light uses the medium of water. And the way it does that is that the water molecules get into specific combinations of molecules. Now, don't get scared, because this isn't complicated at all. If you've ever played Legos, you are doing molecular organization. Simple. And when you get the molecules stacked in certain ways, they receive more coherent information. But if you unstack them and you disorganize them, it's much harder for them to both receive information and to broadcast it. So it's a health issue from cell to cell, whether it's getting the adequate, orchestrated, coherent information, just like dialing into a radio, or whether it's a thought issue, whether our capacity for receiving all the vibrations that life has to give us to support us, because we're part of the living system. Life wants to hold us up. It wants us to bloom our best. And it gives us all sorts of information to do that. And if we're not receiving all that information, we're dialed down. We're living a very depleted, dialed down life. And this is why hydration is so urgent right now. We are living in, now I'm speaking as an anthropologist, we are living in the most abnormal culture that has ever been created, both in terms of human flourishing and potential, and in terms of biological assistance. We live severed lives, indoors, high prescription, ridiculous, tainted foods, levels of stress no one has ever seen before. We're literally surrounded by drywall. The joy is gone. We don't know how to relate to nature. All of this is a result of a very artificial environment that we've created that we now have to find ways to adapt to. So water solutions like what Kenny's doing is a brilliant adaptation for how do we can't just like throw on skins and run out and live in the wild anymore. You know, we really have to get our kids through an education. We have to use cars. So back, Amanda, to this idea. We are the recovery generation. We're going to begin to do the adaptations that are healing and helpful and will get us somewhere totally new that we weren't capable of before.
You know, what's interesting too is being in such an Aquarian time. It's like, how do we go, quote unquote, back to nature, back to the intelligence of nature, but utilizing technology and advancement and innovation in order to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's exciting when we learn about things that exist already that help us take care of some of these problems. I know it's like the tip of the iceberg, but we're going in the right direction. And it sounds to me like if we can fix this water thing, because the water that you're talking about not only affects our bodies, right? It also affects the plants in our garden, the ability for our vegetables to actually nurture us and nourish us, right? So talk about the ecosystem of like how far it goes for the, if we clean the water in one place, how far that ripple effect can go.
Right. Every drop of water that is recovered and truly healed and set back into its natural motion and capacity then passes on that capacity to the next drop. Yeah. So we are ready for this. We understand digital passage of information. Maybe the generation before us wouldn't, but look at us, we're on screen. We know what spreading far and wide, one message, one drop of water can do extraordinary amount of work. So we're going to do this work very quickly. We have such optimism about, forget echo anxiety. We've got that. But Amanda, I want to say that it all is stepping through the portal of hydration.
Wow.
That's the doorway.
It makes a lot of sense, Gina and Kenny, because if our level of hydration affects even the way that we think, even the way that we are able to receive information and pass information, not only just our body and looking good and feeling good, but literally affects every single thing that we're doing, then yes, of course, we would want to start there. Because if we're actually hydrated and passing coherent information, that to me is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah,
it's like that is because then you also see we've been so crippled. If our water is so compromised right now, we don't even know what's possible in terms of us as individuals to reach new heights, right?
You got it. You are such a good thinker, Amanda. In fact, you're
It's
supported
the
by
water. It's Kenny's fault.
Yes, indeed. That's, again, our cognitive function. So Dr. Zach Bush, a physician I really revere, he says 100% of us are dehydrated for sure.
Wow.
So we're not fooling around anymore. I'm seriously telling your audience, we live in broken conditions. Our water is broken and we are broken.
Mm.
And we're not thinking clearly. We're not loving enough. We're not receiving enough joy. We feel so depleted because we are. We are depleted. So there's a way to fix that. Start with putting salt in your water. Start with eating a high plant diet with tons of gorgeous fruits and vegetables that already carry water in coherent form. Find innovative solutions to bring water into your households. And then one of my big missions at the Hydration Foundation is to begin irrigating our crops with water that's coherent. What are we doing? Watering our planet with water that's broken and continuing to break up the soil and the nutrients of the plants. It's now that we know, we're ready to go to fix it, right? We're ready to start. So all of this there's a loop and a wholeness to all of the approach it's just, going to make such a difference.
Okay. So are you saying to literally just put salt in our water? Like, is there a certain kind of salt?
Yeah.
Is it not much salt?
Yes. Yeah. So I just open that up as a traditional method, right? Because we want to collect people wherever they can manage. This is something that anybody can do. So one of the things that I like to say that I think is important that lands for people is never drink a naked glass of water again. It's broken. We got to fix it. So what can you do to start right with where you're at? You're at a restaurant, you can get some sea salt from your chef and just put a pinch of that. Now you've recovered that water. All that water is going to do is do recovery for you. It's going to recover at every point. So this isn't hard. This is also a way to have a high plant diet where you have a lot of fruits and vegetables in your life because they also have that structured water, and you're incorporating that into your system now. Now, if you shower in structured water, you're at every level, what we're doing is stacking solutions over and over again. And if we can get farmers to irrigate crops with structured water, what happens is it revives the dehydrated microbes in the soil. Those dehydrated microbes, they're recovered, they get together, they team up, and they start eating up the glyphosate and diminishing it, taking it apart. It's no longer, so we have very accelerated solutions available to us through the use of water. And the possibilities are getting very exciting. And I promise you, Amanda, if you just start with the water in your glass, water has its own intelligence. It will lead you to the next thing you need to do. So I don't need to give you like a program or an agenda. I just have to get you caring about your hydration as a water being and as a vibratory being. And then you'll get led. Water is so intelligent.
That is so cool. I love it. Now so I have Kenny's system. So do I still need to put salt in the water, or it's not naked anymore, right? Because it's structured, it's mineralized.
He's done the work through his system that that water that's coming out now has gone through the recoherence process. So these are very valuable. I think one of the things Kenny and I have been talking about for a while is how cool it would be to have Spring Aqua systems at grocery stores. So you could go up and get a jug of water. In other words, how do we start thinking about this beyond in a big way for all of us? What ways can we start spreading this new science and new strategies? There's so much available to us, and water will lead us. We're going to know, what to do next. So,
So Kenny, tell us a little bit more about the Spring Aqua system and what it does, because Gina, you've made an incredible case for water. I see you as a steward for water. It's like you're the conduit. You're like, water matters, pay attention. And Kenny, I know you've been, and I experience it in my home now. But can you explain for those who would want to know, like, what does it actually do? I know it's mineralized. I know it's structured. I know it's purified. What other things does it do?
Well, we first say we have to clean the water first, because like Gina was talking about, where water goes through the pipes, pollution, there's so much toxics around the planet now. When you get the water first, you have to first clean it. So we make sure it's clean and get it properly certified. Then we certainly structure the water. So that's a bit of trade secret, how, the ecosystem in the box, the different rock layers, so different type of minerals to get the different type of energy, the frequencies into the water, when they structure the water. And then, so we call that the hydrating part of the system, right? So we would say one glass of Spring Aqua may be equivalent to 2 or 3 glasses of hydration value, or it's more hydrated. You can drink less and be more hydrated, right? And the third part we do is we realize that when we're researching the different springs, and you go to the Lord's Springs, which is really famous in France, and even Netflix now by Zac Efron did an episode, the second episode on that spring, right? It gives us a totally different perspective on water, From that, we learned that the springs have unique values. We call them life-promoting properties. So we found a way to remineralize the water using the MyFun stone crystal, right? Burn the edges 1,000 degrees Celsius.
What's the
So
crystal
now
called
you have
again? Say it again.
MyFun, MAIFAN, the MyFun stone.
Okay.
That's one of the crystals that we use. So we're able to reintroduce calcium, iron, copper, zinc, selenium, magnesium, all as micronutrients. In fact, there's a lot more than that. And we're able to add minerals back in. We're able to structure the water, keep it clean. And the other thing is, it gets tricky as you start executing and giving people the water all over the parts of the countries, where we realize that the source of the water from wherever you live, whether it's New York, Florida, Vegas, it's very different. Okay, the water in Seattle is pretty decent, but when you go to California and you start going to Vegas and go to Florida, the water quality is a little bit very. So we've had to do a lot of recalibration on customizing filters by a zip code, by where you live. That was a very tedious process in the very beginning, but we had to do that because we had to do it right and make sure that people would get the right quality, right type of water in their house. So in a nutshell, we're really, we're an ecosystem in the box, and we're clean, we're hydrating, and the life promoting properties of the minerals, right? Another unique thing that we do is we also include the hydrogen, okay? One thing that we figured out was to make dissolved hydrogen in using the minerals, and we don't use any electricity, so it's all completely natural. And we're able to make a very, very high concentration, where we tell people, if you just read our website, a liter of a water may be equivalent to about 750 bananas in antioxidant value, or 4 bags of spinach with a hydrogen, right? So hydrogen is kind of known as I would always learn from Gina, where hydration is the kind of the root, it's the most important. If you're well hydrated, that is the baseline for your health. It's the most important foundation. Hydrogen is like the rocket fuel, it's like the rocket ship, right? If you need it. And if you look at our environment where we live in, like we're talking about a broken environment, we're talking about us not going out, not being in nature, but also the food that we eat. I'm pretty sure all of us have a lot of free radicals in our body. And so hydrogen is just a very potent antioxidant and a very good anti-inflammatory. So it's very beneficial for many people, especially with the American diet, right? It's very therapeutic. But I still believe, hydration is the foundation that we have to have. So really, our system has the hydrogen, it's unique. It has the hydration, it's the clean water, and being able to localize filters by where we kind of go and live kind of gives people the assurance that we're doing our job, they're getting the best quality, and we're going to continue to evolve.
Brilliant. And can you tell us, and we're going to go back to like some things you want to leave the audience with that we can just take with us after this episode. Before we do that, Kenny, can you tell us why you're excited to partner with Astrology Hub and support us? Just so you all know, through Spring Aqua, if you do decide to get one of Kenny's filtration system, you're not only supporting yourself, supporting your body, supporting the planet, but you're also supporting Astrology Hub. So, and this enables us to continue providing free content, continue doing the show, the podcast, and all these things that you get to enjoy and experience for free. We get to do that with the help of companies like Spring Aqua, which again, for me, it was so important that it felt aligned on every level, that I could stand behind the company and say, yes, I use this personally. I love it. It's so incredible. And that we're partnering with good people who are doing things good for the planet, and for all of you. That's just like, that is the minimum requirement for anybody that we'll ever partner with. So I feel so passionate and confident partnering with you guys and really bringing your message out. It feels really good. So can you tell us why it feels good for you too to be partnering with Astrology Hub as well?
Oh, yeah. I don't know how to say to people, but astrology has helped me so much, so much. If I owe it to the astrology or I don't know what it is, the relationship, but it's helped me so much to my dad and to his connections. God, over the last 10, 15 years, it's been incredible, sometimes you want to go sleep at night, just not have to worry about stuff, pure, have the pure feeling about it. And sometimes you need that astrologist to help you out, right? And so I want to support, because I want to encourage people. It's real science. It's amazing. And they need to get engaged and learn about it, because I think there's areas in astrology where I really did mentally, and also from an emotional standpoint and knowledge standpoint, intuitive standpoint, that really not just helped me, but helped me grow up, right? And if I grow, then my family grows and my friends grow, and that's more important. So I believe God wants me to be a better person. So that just from to the pure astrology standpoint, I think that was huge, because that deep connection to my family, to what my dad is. My dad has always believed that ever since he was a teenager. He never had the opportunity to learn it because of family circumstances, having to get a job, having to work. And it was later on when he was in his 50s, and then, he was able to say, you know what, I got to do this. Otherwise I'll never get to do it. Right. And so that heavily impacted me, or my family, and how we do things. And now a lot of my friends call it. It's just how it goes. It's all, yeah. So from that standpoint, I think it's very important. But from the hydration standpoint too, working with Gina, knowing that, we need to restore water on this planet, that this water is healing for Mother Earth, right? Not just Mother Earth, but this water is healing for rain, for water coming to the rivers. But every drop that we drink, we waste down the drain, all that little structured water, it goes to the earth and does the cleaning of the sewage, to the pipes, to the soil, detoxify. That's a massive, I call it the greater force behind everything, that energy that's helping us understand that we not only have an obligation, but we need to act on trying to, do some water restoration, right? So we have a very big heart. We love a lot of people. We realize that we've been blessed with a very good technology. We got a good steward of it and learn from others. And we have to be able to give to people's homes. And so that's kind of what our strategy is. And so what we do to support Astrology Hub, but also the Hydration Foundation, is very dear to us too, because without them, we know how to explain structured water, how to explain coherent water. You must have to have someone like a Gina, anthropologist in the background, to really bring that science forward and then simplify everything. Yeah. So, that's just all right there.
Beautiful. Well, if any of you want to check this out and see if the Spring Aqua system is right for you, you can go to springaqua.com/astrology hub. So that's springaqua.com/astrology hub, and just check it out. See if it's the right solution for you. If you've been looking for a good water solution, if you're realizing how important it is for all areas of life, then go ahead and check that out. And Kenny's available to answer questions, Kenny and his team. So if you do have questions about it, you can, what's that?
We're here to educate, like Gina.
Yes.
We're going to educate, do our best. We're a big lover of hydration. We love the whole idea of you can exercise, you can eat the right food, drink the right type of water, put the salt in. We're all about that trend. And so if they want to learn about us, just let us know. We'll be on the phone, send information, and do our best to do the proper education for people.
Yeah. Well, and that was important to me too, to make sure all of you would be taken care of. So if you are interested, that you're going to be working with a company who's going to take care of you and not just leave you hanging out there. So I know that Kenny and his team are available for you. So that, again, that's springaqua.com/astrology hub. And Gina, tell the audience, if they want to learn more about the Hydration Foundation, how can they get in touch with you? And also any final thoughts that you have for the audience?
Thank you, Amanda. Yeah, I would love to say that I think having the right, to getting optimally hydrated with the right kind of water that's not broken, it leads to receiving more information from that life wants to support us. We become more intuitive, more perceptive, more. We increase our capacity to receive, all the joy that life wants to send us, and to give us ideas for how we're going to walk our way out of the mess we've gotten ourselves into. Become bigger than we were. Not going back to something, but going forward with all the experiences that we've had. Some of them are very difficult, and loving each other more, being bigger than we were. So that's how I see water and who we are as, available to become more of who we are. It's a great adventure, and it's never going to stop. So I welcome anyone to come to the hydrationfoundation.org. We put a lot of information on our website. We did a huge project last year of a hydration summit, the first ever hydration summit. We did 30 interviews with physicians and scientists. This isn't some strange byway of water. We are moving all this stuff right out front and center. So that's available on our website. It's free public service to anybody. And we have a public funded program where we're trying to get people the opportunity to give recovery methods to farmers so we can get our land done as well. So lots of different initiatives. And anybody can contact me. I am so eager and able to talk about this and ready to. So Gina, Gina at Hydration Foundation. It rhymes. So you can't forget hydrationfoundation.org. Just write me. I answer my emails.
That's so sweet. Amazing. And all those things that you said, those benefits of water, they're all the things that we equate the water element to in astrology.
Oh, tell me about that.
Intuition, the sensitivity to information. A lot of people that have a lot of water in their chart would be very empathic because they can feel. And so it's very interesting to me that it comes full circle because again, those qualities that are attributed to being watery are the very things we're restoring in the water when we're doing it right, when we're actually trusting the intelligence of what it is. And so it's brilliant. And the intuitive piece, it's like, wow, who knew that being properly hydrated, and maybe you all knew this, but this is new for me, being properly hydrated would be a way that we can cultivate our intuition and be more intuitive in the way that we practice astrology and the way that we navigate the world. And anybody who practices astrology knows that there is the science to it. There's the craft, there's the technique, there's the math and the numbers and all of that. And then there is the intuitive side to it. And having both of those in that balance is what makes a really powerful astrologer. So here we are. That's tied back to our hydration and the water in our bodies and on the planet. Perfect. Yes. Thank you. Thank you both so much for your time, for all the things that you have shared with us here today. Kenny, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to offer here at the end as well.
Well, I mean, I just thank you for hosting us. This is a wonderful opportunity for us to learn from one another. Astrology Hub is it's beautiful. It's very important. I encourage people to, if they don't know astrology, I think it's time they should learn about it, especially when you have a beautiful platform that teaches people they need it. I think it's going to help many, many people. And obviously working with Gina, there's so much to learn. There's so much information that she has from the anthropology that I think, not just that, the hydration, the history, what she's doing is amazing. So I think it's going to be wonderful for everyone to learn. Yeah.
Awesome. And thank you for your support of Astrology Hub. And we're just so grateful for this partnership. Thank you so much to you both. And we'll look forward to connecting with you again soon. And take care, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, for being a part of our community. If you are interested in checking out the filtration system, make sure that you go to springaqua.com/astrology hub. When you do that, you're supporting not only yourself and the planet, but also Astrology Hub as well. So thank you for that. And we'll see you all very soon.